Hey guys, so a neat little trick here. Just gonna also continue this video with how to do a valve adjustment. I just finished doing a timing belt job on here, so I still have nothing here. I have no spark plugs in, so it is quite easy to turn over by hand, which is exactly what I'm gonna do for this particular valve adjustment. But normally, you'd have everything still here if you're just doing only a valve adjustment, so it wouldn't be as easily accessible and kind of a pain. So what I normally do, this is a early car, so it has a small connector. It's the same though as the cars with the large connector. You're going to see pin 11, pin 14, and pin 11, and you could just look at the back of the cap, and it'll give you the pin numbers. With the later model, it also has the numbers on there. I have a little switch I use, but you can just jump a piece of wire if you don't want to make a switch. But basically with pins 11 and 14, you could just turn the engine over by jumping those two pins together. Make sure it's obviously in neutral and make sure the ignition is off. So this comes in handy with doing a valve adjustment, since you're going to have to get it on the lowest part of the cam for each cylinder, for each valve rather. You can just simply turn it over, just keep bumping it, and now you have this rocker is on the lowest part of the cam. Same goes for the next one, and so on and so forth. And it's much easier than cranking it over by hand, in my opinion, and you could bump it slowly and get it just where you need it. So just a little information there. Alright, so with the adjustment procedure, I'm going to assume you know how to get to this part, which I think you all should. So, though this tool is not required, this spring tool is very useful for basically setting the adjustment exactly where it's supposed to be. Normally guys loosen the nut here and then use like an Allen key or something to just rotate the eccentric, and then with the feeler gauge between the eccentric and the valve stem tip, kind of once it's loose-ish, they will snug everything back together, and that's it. But you could do that, and most of the time it's fine. I'm just super like, especially with my turbo motor, I'm just super I've always been very like, it has to be exact, and I've always done it this way, and I've never broken a rocker arm. I don't know if one has to do with the other, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. So if you have a daily driver, you'd probably be fine. If you race your car, I really recommend getting this, especially if you're high RPM all the time. These rockers take a beating, and they are known to fail over time, so it's always best to just give them their best chance. Anyways, you should be using a .010 or 0.25 millimeter feeler gauge, and basically what you're going to do is slide the feeler gauge between the eccentric and the valve stem tip, loosen the eccentric nut some, and then right now the eccentric should be loose. It's a little sticky, so I'm gonna go a little bit more. There we go. And now what you're gonna do is, you have the tool, it fits nicely in the eccentric. Make sure that's about the center, and then that's it. Once this starts to bend, that's all the pressure it's gonna put on it. You snug it back up. That's it. Now this is exactly the correct amount that this is supposed to be adjusted to. There's no questions or ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now you could go through each one and find ones that are not on the flat spot of the cam and do each one. I like just doing one cylinder at a time. It just makes things a little bit easier, I think. Sorry about that. There you go. Makes things a little easier. It keeps things kind of in order. You don't have to think about which ones you did or write things down or anything like that. So if you're going to use the method I showed you earlier in this video, you would just tick it over until you're on the flat spot of the cam, which it already was there, so I'm just going to go for a full rotation here. So once the rocker is coming down off the cam lobe, and the tip of that cam lobe is 180 degrees from where the rocker pad is, that's where you want to be. Again, slide your feeler gauge between there. You might sometimes valves will be too tight. You might not be able to do that until you loosen the eccentric. These are a tad loose, so it fits in there as is. Loosen the eccentric up. Get your tool out. Place it in there. Put tension back on it. Tighten it up. That's it. And you're done. That's adjusted. So just keep doing this for all the valves, and you're good to go. Make sure while you're in there, you change obviously the valve cover gasket itself. There's 2 half moon seals for the front rocker shafts. There's 2 more on the rear. When you're installing the half moon seals, make sure that you just put just a little bit of silicone around them, and a little bit on the top right over here. It helps them seal a little bit better, and that's really it. You also might as well change that breather hose that connects to the valve cover as well as doing plugs and wires if it needs it. So also you'll notice that these have the Torx, the external Torx head bolts. If you notice, yours has normal hex head bolts. You might want to think about changing them out. BMW had a recall with the hex head bolts, as they would just over time they'd wind up snapping. So I mean, it's possible that yours will be fine, but if you're at all concerned, it's worth doing. You could probably get away with just doing one at a time, following the order, and not have to actually pull the head off. So I hope that helps you guys out, and thanks again for watching.